Most people think the purpose of a bedroom is simple. You go in, you fall asleep, you wake up. But after years of reading about sleep, stress, and how our brains respond to the spaces we live in, I've come to believe something very different. I don't think most people have a sleep problem. I think many of us have a bedroom problem. Take a look around your room for a second. Really look. There's probably a phone within arm's reach of your bed, a chair that's become a second closet, a book you've been meaning to finish for months, maybe a laptop, a work bag, or a pile of things you've been telling yourself you'll deal with later. None of those things seems like a big deal. That's exactly why they stay there. Here's what's fascinating. You eventually stop noticing them. Your brain never does. Even when you're not consciously paying attention, your brain is quietly scanning the room. It's asking tiny questions all night long. Does this matter? Should I remember this tomorrow? Is there something here that still needs my attention? Most of the time, you never hear those questions. But your nervous system does, and that changes the way your body prepares for sleep. Over the years, I've realized something surprisingly simple. Every room in your home teaches your brain what to do. The kitchen says, it's time to eat. Your office says, it's time to focus. The living room invites conversation, entertainment, or family. Your bedroom should send only one message. You're safe now. You can finally let go. The problem is, most bedrooms don't. We've slowly turned them into offices, storage rooms, mini gyms, entertainment centers, planning stations, and charging docks for every device we own. Without realizing it, we've asked one room to support 5 completely different parts of our lives. And when a room sends mixed signals, your brain stays half alert. That's one reason truly restful sleep can feel so hard to find. This is one of the ideas that makes Japanese-inspired bedroom philosophy so interesting. It isn't really about owning less. It isn't about making your home look minimalist. It's about protecting the one place where your mind doesn't have to perform. The bedroom isn't meant to impress anyone. It's meant to help you recover. In this video, we'll look at 15 surprisingly ordinary things that are often kept out of Japanese-inspired bedrooms. Not because they're bad, not because you need to throw everything away, but because each one quietly asks for a little piece of your attention. And when 15 little things ask for your attention at the same time, your brain never gets the silence it has been waiting for. By the end of this video, I don't expect you'll remove all 15, but I wouldn't be surprised if you remove at least one. Because once you understand the message these objects are sending your brain every night, it's hard to unsee it. Before we get into the list, there's one important thing to understand. This isn't about copying Japanese people, and it certainly isn't about believing that every home in Japan looks the same. Just like anywhere else in the world, people live differently. Some homes are modern, some are traditional, some are cluttered, some are beautifully simple. What we're really talking about is a philosophy, a way of thinking about the spaces we live in, one that many Japanese homes, and especially minimalist traditions, have embraced for generations. At its heart, it has very little to do with owning fewer things. That's the part most people misunderstand. Minimalism isn't a competition to see how empty you can make your home. It's about removing the things that quietly compete for your attention, so the things that truly matter have room to breathe. And nowhere is that idea more important than the bedroom. Think about it this way. Every other room in your home asks something from you. The kitchen asks you to prepare. The office asks you to produce. The laundry room asks you to finish another chore. But your bedroom should ask almost nothing. It shouldn't remind you to answer one more email. It shouldn't encourage you to scroll for another 30 minutes. It shouldn't quietly whisper about tomorrow's responsibilities. It should simply say, "You've done enough for today. You can rest now." That's why this The objects we'll talk about aren't necessarily bad. Many of them are useful. Some of them are even beautiful. The question isn't whether they belong somewhere in your life. The question is whether they belong in the one room that's supposed to ask the least from your mind. Once you start looking at your bedroom through that lens, the list you're about to hear makes a lot more sense. Before we look at the first item, there's something your brain has been doing every second of your life. It's scanning. Long before we had smartphones, televisions, or even houses, our ancestors survived by paying attention to faces, movement, sounds, and anything that might signal danger or opportunity. That wiring never disappeared. Your brain is constantly asking, "Who needs me? What's changing? Should I pay attention to that?" Most of the time, it happens without you even realizing it. That's why your bedroom should become one of the very few places where your brain doesn't feel the need to keep scanning. The fewer social and emotional signals it has to process, the easier it becomes to let your guard down. With that in mind, let's look at the first group of objects. They're all very different, but they create exactly the same problem. Each one quietly gives your brain one more reason to stay awake. 1. Family photos. Family photos are beautiful. For many people, they're a source of love, comfort, and cherished memories. So this isn't about saying you should never keep them. It's about understanding what your brain naturally does when it sees a familiar face. Human faces are incredibly powerful. Within a fraction of a second, your brain begins recognizing expressions, recalling memories, and activating emotional associations. Sometimes those feelings are warm and comforting. Other times, they bring back responsibility, worry, or even grief. You may not consciously think about any of it, but your brain often does. That's why many Japanese-inspired bedrooms keep personal photographs somewhere else in the home, allowing the bedroom itself to remain emotionally quiet, not empty, just calm. Transition. A photograph isn't the problem. It's simply another reminder that your brain is still connected to the outside world. And the next object sends a surprisingly similar message. 2. Exercise equipment. Exercise is one of the healthiest things you can do for your body. But the place where you exercise doesn't always have to be the place where you recover. When a treadmill, yoga mat, or set of dumbbells lies beside your bed, your brain doesn't just see fitness equipment. It sees effort, goals, discipline, tomorrow's workout. The bedroom quietly stops being a place of recovery and starts feeling like another place where something is expected from you. Transition. Different object. Same pattern. Your brain is still being reminded to do something instead of simply resting. 3. Decorative candles you never use. Candles can make a room feel warm and inviting, but candles that simply collect dust often become another form of visual clutter. Your brain doesn't distinguish clutter by size. It notices unfinished stories. Objects that look neglected can subtly suggest that something has been forgotten or left incomplete. One candle won't ruin your sleep, neither will two, but dozens of tiny visual reminders can slowly add to your mind's background workload. Transition. Again, it's not about the object itself. It's about how many quiet conversations your room is asking your brain to have. 4. Television. A television doesn't just bring light into the bedroom. It brings another world. News, shows, sports, streaming, notifications. Even when it's turned off, your brain already knows what it's capable of doing. Over time, the bedroom becomes associated not only with sleep, but with stimulation, entertainment, and staying awake just a little longer. Transition. And if television tells your brain to stay engaged, the next object makes that signal even stronger. 5. Bright ceiling lights. Light is one of the strongest signals your brain uses to decide whether it's time to be alert or time to rest. A bright overhead light tells your brain the day isn't over yet. Soft, warm lighting sends a very different message. It says, you can slow down now. Sometimes improving your bedroom isn't about buying something new. It's simply about changing the signals your brain receives every night. And that's exactly what we'll continue exploring in the next group of objects. So far, we've talked about the things that keep your brain emotionally engaged. The next group of objects does something different. They put your brain into performance mode. And to understand why that matters, there's one fascinating idea from sleep psychology that's worth knowing. It's called stimulus control. The idea is surprisingly simple. Your brain learns through repetition, not just from what you do, but from where you do it. If you answer emails in bed, your brain remembers. If you scroll social media every night before falling asleep, your brain remembers. If you watch another episode of your favorite show under the blankets, your brain remembers that too. Little by little, the bedroom stops meaning one thing. Instead of saying, "This is where we sleep," it starts saying, "This is where we work, relax, watch TV, answer messages, plan tomorrow, and maybe sleep if there's time." The room hasn't changed, but the meaning of the room has. And once that happens, falling asleep often becomes harder than it needs to be. You'll notice something interesting about the next 5 objects. They all send a message, not because they're harmful, but because your brain has learned to associate them with a certain state of mind. 6. Wardrobe. A wardrobe isn't just a place to store clothes. For many people, it's the first reminder of tomorrow. Tomorrow's outfit, tomorrow's meeting, tomorrow's responsibilities. An open wardrobe filled with visual choices quietly invites your brain to start preparing for the next day before today has even ended. That's why many Japanese-inspired bedrooms keep wardrobes simple, organized, and visually calm whenever possible. Transition. The wardrobe says, "Tomorrow is coming." The next object says something even louder. 7. Your phone. Your phone isn't just a device. It's a doorway to work, to family, to social media, to breaking news, to unfinished conversations. Even when it's completely silent, your brain already knows what it represents. One message, one email, one notification, someone might need you. That possibility alone can make it surprisingly difficult for your mind to fully let go. Transition. Different object, different screen, the same signal. Stay available. Njolds. Mirrors. A mirror seems harmless, but every mirror invites one thing: self-awareness. Without thinking, you check your appearance, your posture, your hair, your face. Sometimes you even judge yourself before bed or first thing in the morning. It's a subtle mental shift from simply existing to evaluating yourself. The bedroom should be one of the few places where you don't feel the need to perform, compare, or improve. Transition. If a mirror asks you to think about yourself, the next object asks you to think about your unfinished tasks. 9. Unused electronics. Old laptops, tablets, chargers, cameras, cables you keep just in case. Most of them aren't doing anything, but they still represent unfinished decisions. Should I fix it? Sell it? Charge it? Use it again someday? Every unanswered question becomes another tiny open loop your brain quietly keeps in the background. Transition. And finally, there's one object that often brings tomorrow into the room before tomorrow even begins. 10. Your work bag. A work bag doesn't just carry your laptop. It carries your responsibilities, deadlines, meetings, projects, things that still need your attention. Leaving it beside your bed can quietly tell your brain, don't relax too much. We're starting again soon. Moving your work bag out of the bedroom won't solve every sleep problem, but it removes one more reminder that you're still on duty. And that's the pattern behind every object we've covered so far. Different shapes, different purposes. The same hidden message. Stay alert. You'll need your attention again. The more of those signals you remove, the easier it becomes for your brain to believe what your bedroom has been trying to say all along. For now, there's nothing left to do. Before we move on to the next 5 items, I want you to notice something. None of the things we've talked about so far are actually dangerous. A family photo isn't dangerous. A phone isn't dangerous. A mirror isn't dangerous. A work bag isn't dangerous. On their own, none of these objects is the reason you're not sleeping well. So what's the real problem? It's the message they send. Every one of them quietly asks your brain for something. Remember this. Don't forget tomorrow. Someone might need you. There's still more to do. One object probably won't make much difference. But when your bedroom is filled with little reminders like these, your brain never receives a moment of complete silence. It stays just alert enough to keep scanning, just aware enough to keep waiting, just engaged enough to delay true rest. Here's something worth remembering. Sleep doesn't begin the moment you close your eyes. It begins the moment your brain believes there's nothing left asking for your attention. That's the invisible thread connecting everything we've covered so far. And as you'll see in the next few items, some of the loudest distractions aren't always the obvious ones. Sometimes, the things that steal your attention the most are the ones you've completely stopped noticing. Up to this point, we've mostly talked about things you can see. The last 5 are different, because sometimes the heaviest things in a bedroom aren't heavy at all. They're invisible. Psychologists have long observed something interesting about the human mind. When something feels unfinished, your brain has a hard time letting it go. It quietly keeps the task active in the background, almost like an app running on your phone even when you're not looking at it. You may not be thinking about it consciously, but a small part of your mind still is. That's why these last few objects can have such a surprising effect. They don't create stress by themselves. They simply remind your brain that something is still unfinished. 11. Unresolved reminders. Maybe it's a stack of papers you still need to sort, bills waiting to be paid, a package you meant to return, a note reminding you to make an appointment. None of these things demands your attention out loud. They don't have to. Your brain already knows they're there. Every time you see them, they quietly reopen a conversation that was never finished. The bedroom should close the day, not reopen it. Transition. Sometimes the reminder isn't an object. Sometimes it's the room itself. 12. Poor ventilation. Fresh air doesn't just make a room feel better. It changes how the room feels to your body. A stuffy bedroom can leave the air feeling heavy and stagnant, making it harder to fully relax. Opening a window, improving airflow, or simply letting the room breathe for a while can make your bedroom feel less confined and more restorative. Sometimes rest begins with something as simple as fresh air. Transition. Not every distraction comes from the environment. Some come from the stories we leave unfinished. 13. Unread books. Books are wonderful. Reading before bed can even become a calming ritual. But a growing pile of books you've been meaning to read tells a different story. It quietly whispers, "You're behind. You still haven't finished these." Instead of feeling inspired, the shelf can slowly become another list of unfinished intentions. One book you're enjoying is enough. The rest can wait. Transition. The next object is something you rarely notice until it's gone. 14. Synthetic fragrances. Scent has a remarkable connection to memory and emotion. A gentle, familiar fragrance can make a room feel comforting, but when a room is filled with strong, artificial scents, it can become another form of sensory stimulation. The goal isn't to make your bedroom smell like a luxury hotel. It's to create an environment that asks as little as possible from your senses. Sometimes less really does feel like more. Transition, and finally, there's one category of object that surprised me the most, not because it's harmful, but because it changes the way we think about ourselves. 15. Future self objects, vision boards, motivational quotes, business plans, achievement journals, certificates waiting to be framed. None of these things is negative. In fact, they often represent hope, ambition, growth, but they also remind you of someone you're still trying to become. There's a time and place for ambition. There's a time to plan, to build, to improve. Your bedroom doesn't have to be that place. Maybe. The one room where you sleep should also be the one room where you don't have to earn your worth, where you don't have to prove anything, where you don't have to become a better version of yourself before you're allowed to rest. Perhaps that's the quiet wisdom behind so many Japanese-inspired bedrooms. Not that they expect less from life, but that they expect nothing from you while you sleep. Because the bedroom shouldn't remind you who you're trying to become. It should be the one place in your home that quietly accepts who you already are. And sometimes, that's exactly what a tired mind has been searching for all along. By now, you might be looking around your bedroom thinking, well, I guess I need to get rid of everything. You don't. In fact, I wouldn't recommend changing all 15 things at once. When people try to change everything overnight, they usually end up changing nothing. Instead, start with the things that send the strongest signals to your brain. Think of it as removing the loudest voices from the room first. Priority 1. The biggest sleep disruptors. If you only change a few things, start here. Your phone, the television, bright overhead lighting, and anything related to work. Why these? Because they constantly tell your brain to stay connected, stay productive, or stay alert. They compete directly with the one message your bedroom should be sending: the day is over. If you change only these 4, you'll probably notice the biggest difference. Priority 2. Quiet mental clutter. Once you've handled the obvious distractions, look at the quieter ones. Unused electronics, an overcrowded or open wardrobe, piles of clutter you've stopped noticing. None of these demands your attention loudly. They simply create a steady stream of tiny reminders that slowly add up over time. Think of them as background noise. You don't realize how loud it is until it finally disappears. Priority 3. Everything else. The remaining items aren't necessarily problems for everyone. For some people, a family photo brings peace. For others, a favorite book beside the bed feels comforting. The goal isn't perfection, it's awareness. Ask yourself one simple question whenever you look at an object in your bedroom. Does this help me let go? Or does it quietly ask something from me? If it helps you feel calm, to keep it. If it asks for your attention, it may simply belong somewhere else. You don't need a perfect bedroom. You just need a bedroom that makes it easier for your brain to believe one simple truth: there's nothing left to do tonight. So where do you actually begin? Not by emptying your entire bedroom, not by buying new furniture, and definitely not by trying to change all 15 things overnight. Start with something much simpler. Here's a 2-step reset you can do tonight. Step 1. Walk around your bedroom and pause in front of each object. Then ask yourself one question. Is this helping me rest, or does it belong somewhere else? Don't ask whether it's useful. Don't ask whether it was expensive. Don't ask whether you'll need it tomorrow. Just ask one thing. Does this support the purpose of this room? If the answer is yes, I leave it. If the answer is no, maybe it simply belongs somewhere else in your home. Step 2. Tomorrow morning, before you check your phone, before you get out of bed, notice the very first thing your eyes land on. That object has probably been quietly competing for your attention all night, whether it's your work bag, your laundry, your television, or a pile of unfinished paperwork. Your brain saw it long before you consciously thought about it. Sometimes changing what you wake up looking at changes how you wake up feeling. And here's one thing I'd encourage you to try. Don't change everything. Change just one thing. Move your phone out of the bedroom. Put your work bag in another room. Clear one cluttered surface. Replace one bright light with a softer one. Whatever you choose. Leave it that way for 7 nights. Not one night. 7. Because your brain needs time to learn that the room has changed. During those 7 days, pay attention to 3 simple things. How long does it take you to fall asleep? How many times do you wake up during the night? And how do you feel when you wake up in the morning? You don't have to take my word for any of this. In fact, I hope you don't. The most convincing evidence is always your own experience. Test it. Observe it. See what changes. Because sometimes the smallest change in a room creates the biggest change in the way your mind finally lets go. After everything we've talked about today, you've probably realized this was never really about 15 objects, and it was never really about Japan. The Japanese-inspired bedroom simply reminds us of something many of us have forgotten. Every room in your home teaches your brain how to feel. Some rooms encourage conversation. Some encourage productivity. Some encourage entertainment. Your bedroom has just one job: to quietly teach your mind that it's safe to let go. That's why this isn't really about copying Japanese homes. It's about protecting the one place where your nervous system is finally allowed to stop performing. In a world that constantly asks for your attention, your bedroom shouldn't ask for any more. It should never be the busiest room in your house. It should be the quietest conversation your brain has all day. And maybe that's the real secret. Not sleeping more, but giving your mind one place where it no longer feels responsible for anything at all. Because sometimes the most powerful form of rest isn't what you add to a room. It's what you finally allow yourself to remove. If your bedroom can quietly say, there's nothing left to prove, nothing left to finish, nothing left to carry, then your mind may finally believe it too. And that's when real rest begins. So tonight, don't worry about all 15 things. Just choose one. One object that's quietly asking more from your mind than it's giving back. Move it. Put it somewhere else. Then leave it that way for a week. Tomorrow morning, before you reach for your phone, before you start thinking about work, before your day begins, just pause for a moment. Notice how the room feels. Not how you slept, how the room feels. Does it feel a little quieter? Does it feel like there's simply less pulling at your attention? Because that's where better sleep often begins. Not with a new mattress. Not with another sleep gadget. Not with the latest supplement everyone is talking about, but by asking your brain to carry just one less thing. Somewhere along the way, many of us started believing that every problem has something we need to add. A better mattress, a smarter sleep tracker, another routine, another product. But maybe real rest works the opposite way. Maybe it's not about adding more. Maybe it's about needing less. Less noise, less pressure, less to think about. After all, your bedroom isn't supposed to prepare you for tomorrow. It's supposed to help you let go of today. And when nothing in the room is quietly asking for your attention anymore, your mind usually stops answering. If this video gave you a new way to look at your bedroom, I hope you'll try that one small change tonight. See what happens. You don't have to believe me. Just pay attention to how you feel. Sometimes that's the only proof you need. Thank you for watching. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you in the next one.